Hey there investors, hope everyone had some happy holidays. In today's video we'll be looking at NIO. The ticker symbol for NIO is NIO, and the reason we'll be looking at NIO is because of unusual option activity. We look at unusual option activity because we want to follow the smart money. Smart money is made up of large, sophisticated institutional investors with buying power in the millions. These are investors who are either buying large volumes of calls, thinking that the price of a stock will go up very quickly, or buying large volumes of puts, thinking that the price of a stock will go down very quickly. The great thing about options is that they give you a time frame, which is the expiration. They give you a strike price, which is where they think the price is going to move. And as investors, we can try to take advantage of that information by following some of their trades and taking a more conservative position to try to make a return on our investment. Remember, these videos are for entertainment purposes only. Please remember to check out the disclaimer in the description below, as well as other information that will be covered in this video. So now diving right into it, what's been going on with NIO? If you look at NIO on the stock, it's come off its highs from what it previously reached around 55 because of the EV energy rally that has been going on with a lot of the hot EV stocks and electric stocks that have been either IPOing through a SPAC or through direct listings, and also some of the momentum that's been seen around the administration and the policies that are being proposed around energy. So you can see that it's come off and it's kind of consolidating around this area. And so we want to, try to look at what's gonna come next. And to do that, we want to look at some of the unusual option activity. So what do the option volumes indicate of what investors think of the stock? So we can see by looking at some of the most active stock options, the sentiment is currently that for NIO, almost 67% of investors are bullish on NIO, meaning that there's of the volume of options that are out there, 66.8% of them that are traded are call options, which means that the momentum is on the upside. In contrast to that, 33.2% are put options. So if we look at this sentiment, we can try to determine what is driving this bullishness. So let's take a look as to what the volumes indicate is happening. So if we look at NIO in the news, and in here I just searched for NIO on Google and then went to the news tab to see some of the latest news of the company. So you can see here there's a few posts, NIO to expand battery infrastructure in China to compete with Tesla. So a lot of the EV craze that has been going on and the recent uptick in introduction of new EV companies. And so you can see here Chinese EV startup NIO to unveil its first electric sedan on January 9th. New competition for the Tesla Model 3. Now this is kind of what I wanted to look at, as we can see that the company is gearing up for one of its more showcases where it'll be unveiling its new sedan, EV sedan, on January 9th. So that could give us an indication as to why investors are bullish on this stock, because of the news of the company unveiling a new electric vehicle sedan that will compete against other electric vehicle companies. So, this is a pretty strong reason to be bullish. As you can see, a lot of EV companies have been up and coming and launching new vehicles, but unveiling a new vehicle sedan that will rival the current leader in the industry, which is Tesla, is something definitely to be bullish about. So, knowing this, I think we can look at what the investors are actually buying in these options, right? So if we extend our expiration or time frame to beyond January 9th, which is after NIO day of when NIO day is expected, then we can see that we fall under the range of this January 15th expiration. And this is also good for us because if the stock, it gives us enough time for the stock to reach the prices that we think it's going to reach within that specific time frame. So based on looking at this list of strike prices and options, we see that a majority of investors, of the big investors, are coming into this 50 strike price. Now you can see that this is a huge volume, right? 50 strike price, and there's an open interest of roughly 55,000 contracts. So we can see here when we go to the buying the calls at the expiration of January 15th for the 50 strike price, we can see that there is the 55,000 contracts that are still open here. 6,000 of them have been traded. Now you can see if we plug in the contract volume there, there's a total open interest of 18.2 million in call options within NIO. This is a very high volume. So now with looking at this, we got to ask, will the stock actually hit the prices that investors think it will? So to answer that question, we want to take a look at some technical analysis and really look at what the stock is doing and what is it possible that the stock will hit the strike price that these investors think it will. So when we look at the stock and do some analysis, if we look at, for example, the 20-day moving average, which is this yellowish line here, not to be confused with the orange line below. So the 20 moving average is falling right around 46.02. And you can see that that is right here where we had a previous level of support. So when we look at the levels of support on the 1-day chart, we can see that a clear support level is roughly around here, around the 38.76 range, where we can see the stock went up and then hit the support level, established this new support from this previous support, and then went up, came back down, hit the support level, went up, came back down, up and down, hit this support again, went up, and then came back down and hit the support. So we can see that this support has been tested at least a few times. So this is a relative good historical support of the stock. Now when we dive into it a little bit more, we can see that another level has been established within this next line, around 44.34, give or take. So you can see that the stock went up, hit the support, and then went back up after hitting this or crossing this level of resistance. So it came back up and then it came back down. Then it came back up and it didn't quite make it past this previous level of resistance. So now this level is serving as both a level of resistance here and a level of support here. So it hit that level and it climbed all the way up to a high of 56.99. And then it came back down and it hit the support, rebounded a little bit, and then came back down to this previous support. So you can see here that the stock hit this support and rebounded, and here hit the support and rebounded. So this line also is proving to be another indicator of support and resistance. And then from there we can clearly see that this other line here, 49.77, has been serving as a level of resistance and potentially support. So you can see that the stock encountered some resistance here, but spiked up to a level to a high of 54, blowing back past the 49, and then coming back down. And then here where it tested the level of resistance again, it crossed it, and then it spiked all the way up to another high of 56.99, but then didn't have momentum and came back down. So now you see that it's coming back down to the support, and it didn't quite make it past here, so it came back down, and now it's coming back up here. and we can see that there's some consolidation going on around this range. So looking at that and looking where the moving averages are at, there is good potential that, or there is a high probability that the stock could reach past its 50 or reach to its 50 strike price, as the stock has done so in the past. And especially given the news of the company unveiling its EV sedan, there's good probability that that momentum will carry into the trading volume and will be sufficient volume to drive the price of the stock up to that 50 strike price. So now that we kind of considered whether or not it is likely that the stock could hit the prices or strike prices that the institutional investors think it will, we want to look at what position we could take and why, based on these analysis. So if we look at some of the cheat sheet indicators that we can find on bar chart, we see that once this loads, we'll see a few indicators such as levels of support and resistance and sort of where the stock is going. So you can see that we closed here before after hours, roughly around there, have a pivot point of where the stock could turn in either direction of 46 and a resistance level at 46.82 and 47.82, and from there the upside is pretty much cleared to above or at 50 or above 50. So when we look at that, we see that the sentiment is pretty good above that. But as far as taking a more conservative position, we want to try to dissect some of the strike prices that are being considered by these investors and see what would be conservative for us, considering our technical analysis and sort of what levels the stock has hit in the past. So when we're looking at open interest again, see that obviously there's this big volume, but if we're looking at, and we want to find a position where there's a good amount of volume that has already been closed and traded and a good amount of open interest. So finding a good balance between that, and that will help us determine whether or not the position is liquid enough for us to liquidate our investment once we're looking to close our positions, because the more open interest there is, the more likelihood is that you'll be able to sell your contracts whenever you are looking to close your positions. And same with volume. If there's active volume here, there will be more likelihood for you to close your contracts at any rate that you want, and so you'll have good liquidity and your contracts will be easier to sell. As opposed to that, if you had low volume here and say you wanted to sell, then it would be very hard for you to sell the calls that you had or contracts that you had because of the low volume or no volume. So you also have to take into consideration how many of these contracts are being traded. So I guess with that, a good position here looking at would be around the 45 strike price, and that puts us right above a sort of a safe level, considering that the stock is right above its 10-day moving average that we saw over here, which is 46.02. And I'll hover over this and remove my mouse so you can see it fall back down to that level. So our 20-day moving average will give us a good indication that anything above 45 the stock is likely to reach if it is able to stay above that 20-day moving average. So this right here would be the position that we would want to take with a January 15th expiration. So if we were to look at that on the options, we can see that that is sort of what we're looking at here. So if we go to the 45, which would be in the money, safer option, we can see that the volume interest by the open interest by expanding is 27,000, which is roughly around 13.8 million, which is still very good for us, meaning that we'll be able to close these contracts if we choose. Now, as far as actually setting our profit target levels and entry point and exit point, as well as any stop losses, we want to look at the trade idea. And the trade idea is really our consideration of how to trade these contracts given where the stock has been, given certain indicators, and seeing if it's a good idea to get into these contracts. So the idea is that we're planning on buying the January 15th, 2021 expiration contracts at a $45 strike price for roughly $5.05. And we want to try to get in with our entry point roughly around above the 20-day simple moving average, which is 46.02 in a bullish market, because if the stock is trading slightly above that or at that level, then that's a good indicator that the momentum is strong and in our favor, which will make it more likely that the stock will reach our strike price and above that, so that we can make a return. And so that would be our entry point. Our first level where we would seek to take profits or close the position or trim some of your position if you're buying multiple contracts would be at 46.82. The next level would be 47.86 and then 48.47. And that is based off of previous indicators. So 46.82 is the previous point of resistance, and then 47.86 is the next level of resistance that follows. And then thereafter, if you're bullish enough thinking that it will cross to the 50, you could hold to 50 or close again at this 10-day roughly moving average where it's been historically known to stall. So that would be another good indicator. And our stop loss or exit point would be if the stock would be trading back down the 10-day simple moving average of 45.36, which is roughly around this 9-day moving average or the previous low. And if we look at the stock, we can see when we're looking at trade in comparison to the trade idea of 45.36, we can see that that is roughly what the previous low was there. So 45.51, 45.50. So if it breaks past this level, then if it gets to like 45.36, which is our kind of stop loss, then it'd be a good indicator that the stock momentum is no longer in our favor of the stock going up, and that the sentiment has turned more bearish and that the stock will be going down. So that right there is the logic behind that, and again based on technical analysis and some of the indicators. So now the other side of the position would be going on the put in a bearish market. So if somehow the sentiment ends up turning around because of whatever reason, any policy updates or changes to company announcements and things like that, then we could see that the next position would be buying puts and making a return on that. So that would be taking the 15th expiration 45 put for $4.25, and our target levels would be as follows, and again based on the previous levels of support. So these would be when we would take profits in the put position, and then that would be levels which we would also consider closing. And our this should say put stop. Our put stop should be with the stock back up to the 45.36, which is this. So if it crosses that previous level, then the put position is no longer relevant because the momentum of the stock is now to the upside. and apologies here for the spelling, but should be back up to the 10-day simple moving average. So that right there is the trade idea. And again, also wanted to emphasize that I am subscribed to another stock alerter through my phone that is available through the App Store on iPhone and I believe Android as well. And through that stock alerter, I also did get alert on NIO, and in that specific app, they're recommending to buy NIO below 53.70 and sell at 54. So they're expecting the stock to at least reach this level in the next coming weeks, which is in favor of the position that we and the direction of what we think the price will go in. So if we look at this indicator, we see that we're looking for an upside of roughly in the 50s, which is pretty good for our position taking here on NIO. So that is it, guys. Let me know what you think about the trade idea. I'll be posting all the links in the description. And let me know your thoughts on NIO or any other stocks that you guys are looking at. Thanks again for watching.